Hello and welcome from Chicago, Illinois to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig, where Nate has conversations with entrepreneurs doing business across borders and the people who support them, with a focus on those that have some connection to Latin America. My name is Josefina Dominguez and I am an editor for LatinList, a proud sponsor of the Crossing Borders podcast. Sign up for our weekly updates on latinlist.com to get a summary of the week's biggest headlines in Latin American tech news. Nate's guest today is Maribel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Círculo de Belleza, a Magma portfolio company and an online marketplace that enables beauty salons to find products and tools at a competitive price. They talk about Maribel's bicultural background after having grown up in the US with strong Mexican roots, why the distribution system in the beauty market is outdated and broken, and how she decided to start a B2B business with her dad and landing star clients like L'Oreal and United Colors of Benetton. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Maribel Dominguez.
Hey, Maribel, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being willing to do it.
Hi, Nate. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Now, of course. So where are you in the world today?
I am in Mexico City. So I've spent most part of the pandemic here. So it's been a good ride, all based out of Mexico City for now.
So tell me a little bit about your business.
So Círculo de Belleza, we're a specialized B2B marketplace that's looking to supply beauty salons and independent hairstylists. We're focusing on the e-commerce side of the marketplace right now, just because we know that that's the biggest pain point for our clients. Basically, the current distribution system in the professional beauty market is completely outdated and broken. So there's a big disconnect between the big brands and the long tail of hair salons and independent stylists. Even now with the pandemic hitting, a lot of salons went out of business. You have all these independent stylists looking to find alternate suppliers, and the timing was pretty great. So we started May 2020, so in the middle of the pandemic. Kind of rode the wave of the digital transformation, and that included the professional beauty industry. So that's basically in this, in a nutshell.
So talk me through how one of your clients' life is without you and now with you. Like what changes and why is using you better than what they were doing before?
So basically, I get asked this question a lot, and the first kind of metaphor or relationship I give is, okay, what's the difference between you going to the grocery store and buying all your groceries or ordering them online, right? So there's just that simple convenience piece of knowing you go on a website, you go on an app, you add to cart, and you get the stuff delivered that you need, right? You never go to the, a lot of times you go to the grocery store, there's something that are out of stock, and usually that doesn't happen when you're ordering online. So that's that whole convenience piece, basically. Secondly, it's basically, and this is our biggest point, is we're offering all of our clients top name brands that they usually wouldn't have been able to buy elsewhere. So most of the stylists and small hair salons don't comply with all the requirements on behalf of the big brands like L'Oreal, Alphapar, Revlon, etc. Just because these big global companies have to invoice formal businesses. So a lot of times these smaller mom and pop shops don't simply comply with all of that. So access to top brands, and what we're offering is a wholesale pricing mechanism with no minimum order. So what we say is you can buy one hair dye or 100, one shampoo or 3 case packs. It's the same price, and as long as you are a professional and it's for it's a B2B. We will sell to you. Also, another one of our unique value propositions is that we deliver nationwide. So a lot of times in the big cities, you are able to find more suppliers for these top brands or more variety at competitive pricing. To date, we've already delivered orders across all states in Mexico, so that's pretty great. And even though obviously the bulk of it is in Mexico City, Estado de Mexico, Guadalajara, Monterrey, we're seeing orders literally coast to coast, end to end of the country. So basically all of our clients are scattered all over. And that distribution piece is also solved by us having one online platform that's basically nationwide delivery. So those are basically the main points. So access to top brands, pricing, and just kind of the service level that it doesn't matter where you are, we'll ship that out to you. What we built was really thought well out from the beginning, knowing our type of client. So even though it's an online store, you don't have to have a credit card or even a bank account to buy with us. We offer a cash on delivery method, which is actually 80% of our sales are paid with cash on delivery. So that's a great also a barrier when you're trying to attend this bottom of the pyramid type of businesses. So that was something we knew we had to offer from the get-go. And again, just also we do conversational commerce a lot, and that's just basically a fancy term for selling via WhatsApp, right? So 50% of our sales are actually done through WhatsApp. We have a multi-agent like WhatsApp enterprise system. All of our sales reps are called Pili, so everyone thinks they're talking to one Pili, but really Pili is a lot of different people, so that's always kind of interesting. And so clients are able to buy via WhatsApp, pay cash on delivery, order and get order what they need whenever they need, get it delivered no matter where they are, and the get access to the brands, and all with the convenience of buying online and getting it delivered to their business or to their home, basically.
So we'll dig in more into the business in a bit here, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your background. Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or was this something that came up in your business career?
So I've always kind of said that Círculo de Belleza is my 11-year startup, because I've kind of always been very into just kind of like the beauty industry in general, even though I have no like beauty technical background. So I've lived 19 out of my 34 years in the US. And so back and forth into 3 different time periods, one of which was when I went to college. I attended Boston University. I graduated from the School of Management and the School of Arts and Sciences. So I got a dual degree there in economics and international management. Basically, I was the first out of all my group of friends that got an internship. I worked at a boutique investment and M&A firm. And that's when I kind of knew, like, this is not for me, like just like crunching numbers and sitting at Excels. And my like coworkers were like having competitions, like who could do the Excel faster without touching the mouse. I was like, yeah, this is definitely not for me, even though I studied this, right? Like everyone was, I mean, the timing was also kind of like everything kind of worked itself out. I was looking to get more into like consulting, just because I liked, I wanted to, really take advantage of kind of like my bicultural, I consider myself fully Mexican, and I'm also very American. So in like all senses of the word, I have the nationalities, I speak the language. I actually probably think and speak better in English than in Spanish. So kind of getting into consulting and trying to do something like cross-border was kind of my thing. But then I graduated in 2009, and that was a year after the big financial crisis. So there was literally a hiring freeze. And because I had the American passport, I said, look, I'm just going to move back home and just wait it out, and then eventually go back to New York. So it's kind of one of my dreams, is eventually living in New York City. So I moved back home in 2009, and my dad actually had this idea for a business. And it was a kind of a great partnership, because he was coming from the corporate world, and he kind of wanted to just like hit the ground running and just like start doing, buy and sell operations. The International Surplus is a B2B broker of closeout and overstocks of brand name goods, of brand name consumer goods. So we didn't do anything like raw material. It was all finished products, brand names that had some sort of package change, an overstock, a discontinued item. And he had basically worked in the finance department across several different corporations and industries, and had always noticed, like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's always kind of a little corner of excess inventory. And it's just kind of a tiny little headache for the company. But if you sum up all these excess inventory, and there was a company specialized in just helping these companies like move the stock, it could be a great business. And so, I kind of bought into that, and I was like, all right, that sounds interesting. Let's think of a business plan. I am not going to do any single transaction until we do a full business plan. So I was coming out of business school. I had done like my thesis and everything. So I was like, we have to have a marketing plan, an operations plan, a finance plan. We have to have a website or a logo, this and that. And so that was actually a pretty cool experience. I worked with my dad, alongside my dad for 8 years. In the meantime, I actually moved to Chicago. I was there for 5 years, and International Surplus basically got one of its first clients being L'Oreal. So L'Oreal, the biggest cosmetics company in the world, and to date we're still doing operations with them. And from there, we got access to all this excess inventory from L'Oreal. We had it at amazing margins because we were buying at like 10 cents off the dollar of these like brand name, number one brand in beauty, perfect, in perfect condition goods. And it was kind of my initiative to say like, hey, this is too much margin to just be brokering as a B2B. If we find a B2C channel, this would be amazing. So basically all the brands, including L'Oreal, would tell us like where we couldn't sell the products. So everything else was open. And so what we created was our own B2C channel in corporate sales. So basically what that meant was we partnered up. At the end, we were partnering up with over 250. It was kind of my initiative to find a B2C channel. And I ran an experiment one day, and we took a bunch of stock. We went to the corporate headquarters of Manpower, the big outsourcing company. And the HR department sent out a little internal email, and said like, hey, it's a L'Oreal sale. Everything's at 50% off. They're going to be in the boardroom. If you guys want to come on down. We took boxes. I went with my mom, my sister-in-law, which is kind of a very like garage style. Everyone just kind of like helping out. And we basically sold, back then it was like $12,000 in 6 hours just to the corporate employees. And they were just like killing each other over like half price lipsticks and hair and face creams and mascaras. And I was like, okay, there's something here, right? At the end of the day, the corporate offices aren't charging us anything. It's a benefit for the employees. And kind of, I've always, and this has been like very true of all my kind of like business endeavors and ideas, has been making sure that I'm kind of challenging the status quo and making sure that the new business idea actually is very noble in the sense that like everyone's winning, right? So here the brands were getting rid of their overstocks in a channel that wasn't going to cannibalize their regular channels. The company got like this amazing perk at being able to offer these branding products that were all like health and beauty and personal hygiene products at half off. The clients were being able to, purchase at a discount. We were making money along the way. And at the end of the day, the brand won again because they had a lot of clients that were using their products, buying at half off, and then they were going to go back to the normal sales channels to buy, right? So what we grew that business into having over 250 partnerships with different corporations, both public and private. So there was on one occasion we went to the offices of Pemex, which is like the big national oil company here. They have 10,000 people in one building, and we were selling, tens of thousands of dollars a day. And they would be like, hey, can you guys stay another week? And we were like, yeah, sure, why not? We gave like a donation to the Red Cross, which we did directly. So it was all very, very clean. At the end of the day, like the Red Cross got a huge donation from us, the employees, we sold out of everything. So it was a pretty cool business, but it was not scalable, right? And it had a very high dependence on L'Oreal. At the end of the day, we couldn't say we were like, oh, we were in the corporate business, corporate, sales or employee sales business. We were selling L'Oreal products. And so at one point, I kind of also decided, this was also my initiative, to try to branch out into other categories. So the idea was, okay, if we already have this database of all these corporations, we know this works, let's go and reach out to other brands. And so there, we partnered up with Under Armour, we partnered up with United Colors of Benetton, and we were wanting to branch out, but just the logistics and the operational piece was really, really rough. So we were doing 300 events a year, and that was basically like pop-up. So it was like set up and go back to the warehouse, set up, go back to the warehouse. We were taking 2,000-3,000 units of 600 different SKUs. So the inventory was just like crazy to do. And so during that time period, so this was 2009, I started International Surplus. 2012 was that first like manpower employee sale. From 2012 to 2016, we were just doing L'Oreal in-person pop-up events. And then we had a big bank tell us that they wanted us to go to every single branch across Mexico and do the L'Oreal pop-up sale. And so I was like, okay, that's impossible. But what we can do is we can create a private online store and we can upload the catalog and we can have this be open to friends and family, all the employees. So we did that. So we built ofertis.com.mx. It was interesting because we couldn't do any marketing. So it was all 100% free promotion by the companies that were sending out again emails to the employees saying like, hey, you guys want like really cheap like health and beauty products, go to Ofertis. We have a partnership with them. So the password protected site. And in the meantime was when I was very close to the professional products division with L'Oreal, and just kind of out of curiosity, 2012, I visited a hair salon and I was like, so I see you guys have L'Oreal products. Like, how did the hair salon these days like get these brands on the shelves? And they're like, well, it's a headache. Like, we had to like call a call center. It took us 3 months to get a rep assigned to us. They finally came. We gathered all the like paperwork. It was a headache. And then they made us place a $2,500 initial order, which was really tough for us to make, but we did it just so we could carry the brands. And then a month later, when we wanted to like, fulfill another small order of just a few items, the sales rep was like, no, that's too small of an order. Like, just wait until you have at least $500 worth of an order, so that way I can go out there and take that order for you. So I was always, again, like kind of challenging the status quo. And I was like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, I understand the first onboarding process, but all the subsequent orders, like if they just need a hair dye and, 2 nail polishes of that exact color, like they should just log on to a website and order and get it delivered. Like, that's it. So I proposed that idea to L'Oreal. And I always tell this story, and they were like, the professional products division is never going to sell its products online. So that was 2012. And then 2019 hit, and they had a global meeting where Brazil was going to announce that now 20% of their sales were coming online of the professional products division, and L'Oreal had zero, and not even a single client who had even looked at e-commerce. So I had been kind of their like go-to person and trying to carry out kind of like different new sales channels. Between then, we had a bunch of different like experiments with different brands, etc. And that's when we got kind of our big break to be able to launch Círculo de Belleza. And what that caused was a lot of the other brands to want to come on board. So basically, it was a great network effect on the supplier side, where you had the biggest name brand in the industry already on this like disruptive online B2B platform. So all the other brands were like, okay, if they're on there, we got to be on there too. And really, my experience and all my other business ventures kind of led up to what Círculo de Belleza's business model is today, right? So kind of the supplier relationships, like knowing how to be just a tiny little company run by 2 people, being able to like sit with these big executives and be able to negotiate stuff, so that I've never kind of been scared of doing that. The e-commerce piece, again, when they, L'Oreal asked me to launch Círculo de Belleza within 3 weeks, it was like pretty easy because we had already done it. The whole logistics and the whole just like e-commerce infrastructure we had already kind of carried out as well. So basically, and again, the whole idea behind creating a very noble business model came very naturally with Círculo de Belleza, because now you are also impacting the lives of these mom and pop shops, independent stylists who have been completely underserved, and there really aren't that many disruptive businesses out there taking a look at the professional beauty industry, but it's something that affects hundreds of thousands of people in Mexico and millions across Latam. So it's very interesting how through just kind of a simple e-commerce marketplace, we are really making a difference and helping them be able to run their businesses in a better way, just by helping them solve that supply side of their business. That way they can focus on the real stuff that really has them much more passionate, which is actually just like doing the work and attending their clients and whatnot.
So what would be the top 2 or 3 lessons learned from the whole experience of the non-scalable business to get you to Círculo de Belleza today?
Yeah. So basically, anything that you can't, that has too big of a bottleneck, that won't let you scale, is a no-go, right? Especially nowadays. The idea of creating the e-commerce site for Ofertis was exactly to be able to replace the on-site sales. But the original business model was just completely, it was way too operational, hands-on, and it was just not scalable at all. So basically, I wouldn't ever consider any type of even initiative, even in any part of the business today, even if it's onboarding, if it's marketing strategy, if it's even like a hiring strategy, I wouldn't consider today anything that's not scalable, that you aren't able to, okay, you're doing 10 today, how can you do 1,000 with that same method? So basically, if it doesn't scale, it's not going to work in today's world. So that's the biggest lesson. The second is really, it kind of sounds kind of like cliche and way too like romantic, but kind of like, the idea is don't ever think you're too unimportant or too small enough to ever kind of propose something or make a difference. So, I was let down several years ago when I proposed this idea to L'Oreal and to a few other companies. But at the end of the day, like, even though I was just like this one-man show trying to propose this kind of disruptive idea, eventually it came through, right? So a good idea that's well thought out, that really will make a difference in the different like value chain, supplier, final end consumer, intermediaries, etc. It's really worthwhile to kind of fight for it and find a way how to do it, right? So I've always kind of been not like a yes woman, but always like, don't tell me no, tell me how como si, right? Like how we can do this. Don't tell me all the ways we can't. Like I get like, okay, because of the onboarding, okay, because you have to make sure it gets into the hands of supply of like, licensed technicians. Okay, I get it because it's gonna cannibalize your workforce, but like what can we do? Like at one point I was like, we'll integrate your Salesforce into this. Like, so always kind of find a way to not take no for an answer, just take those no's into consideration to kind of be creative and kind of twist it into your favor. Is kind of what were the common themes and how I got to where I am today.
And one of the things that distinguished the previous business to this business is raising money. Talk a little bit about the decision to raise money, the fundraising process, and where you are today.
Yeah, so that's an absolutely key factor in everything. So the original business, so for my first 10 years as an entrepreneur, I was basically bootstrapping and just taking the returns and reinvesting it into the company. Kind of like a quick note there, I actually ended up doing a management buyout for the business, just because sometimes mixing family and business is a little complicated. So I actually moved back to Mexico City from Chicago in 2018, exactly almost 3 years ago to date. And I ended up buying my dad out of the business. So and in that sense, it was just kind of a generational change for him, trying to raise money, trying to think bigger, trying to think of businesses that would scale, and not take this as just being like a just a small little family run business. I was always wanting to think big. So that was kind of, there was just too many differences there in vision and long-term strategy between us. And at the end of the day, like he's my dad, so he's no longer my business partner. I think separating that was very healthy. So raising capital was the number one thing. I said, I was like, I'm not gonna do another business where I do not have outside money, and that doesn't mean that because I didn't want to put up my own money or because I didn't want to take the risk myself. But I realized that just small organic growth, just kind of reinvesting your returns and putting it back to the business was really never gonna take Círculo de Belleza to the level that we needed. So from the get-go, I went out and raised a friends and family round and just kind of convinced people. And it's very true. People really do invest in the person, not really even in the business idea. I was taking checks in the middle of pandemic. I actually never even got the actual safes signed officially in ink, just because everyone was like locked up, and it was kind of very crazy times. And honestly, I don't even know how I was able to do it in the middle of pandemic with so much uncertainty, but it was definitely a key factor in where Círculo de Belleza is today. And I think it is very hard to just kind of bootstrap. There's bootstrapping strategies, right? But just kind of bootstrapping and being like, okay, I'm gonna start small, and I'm gonna see where I can take this. It is really hard to get any noise out there and up and running. So that was a big difference between everything else I had done. And also, I guess I feel a lot more confident today going out and raising money and being able to say like what we're going to do with this money, how we're going to put it to good use, how we're going to grow, just because of that previous experience I have, right? So it's kind of not that common, I think, in finding like kind of longstanding entrepreneurs who have this experience. So I've actually, really used that in my favor and said like, hey, this isn't my first time doing this, but it is my first time with actual money in the bank. So I'm confident that I'm going to be able to really grow this thing, because now I have all the resources. I can hire top talent. We can invest where we need to, and we can get this up and running, and it's a scalable business model. So, kind of sky's the limit here. So that was a big difference in what I had done previously. And perhaps I would have, knowing what I know today, maybe back then I could have gone out and raised some money from, friends and family, but just again, it wasn't a scalable business model. So it wasn't that attractive, right?
Do you have any books, blogs, podcasts, or documentaries you like, whether they're startup related or just about life in general?
So there's a pretty cool book. So I kind of spend all my free time reading about business books. So I'm kind of boring in that sense. There's a book called Playing to Win. It's a book about a framework of different, very simple questions, but that are very difficult to answer. And I think all entrepreneurs should read it, because if they are able to answer the questions in that book, they have a really solid business case. It hits pretty close to home, because it's written by an ex Procter and Gamble, and they're talking about all the different places and products that they were launching in different markets and different target markets, and all their sales and marketing strategies and whatnot. So it's very related to kind of the health and beauty industry, but in general the questions are pretty great. So if you are able to answer concisely those questions, and for us it was it's a book I've read with my team, and we always kind of come back to it whenever we have big strategic decisions, like, okay, does this fit in the framework of where we want to play? What does winning mean, right? And so it's not about like creating your vision and your mission as a company, but it's really like, what is your aim? You can't try to win at everything. You can't be everywhere and be the best all over, but where are you going to choose to play today? And that can evolve. But if you have that very clear, I think it's again, it can be a very it doesn't have to be like a unicorn worth idea, but if you have these questions well thought out, I think it can be a very solid business, because it's very, very concise. So that's one. And then this is more like a book I read more for personal reasons, but it really did change a lot of how I deal with relationships. It's called The Relationship Cure. It's a very interesting book that talks about different types of relationships. So relationship with work-wise, relationship with your boss, with your colleagues, with your subordinates, with your team, with your wife, husband, partner, with your kids. And it just kind of relationships are complicated in general, in any sense of the word, in any type of part of your life. But this book kind of broke it down as to what are relationships, and what do they entail. And there's some very good pointers there as to how you can have healthy relationships. And of course, since at the core, relationships are made up of humans, which are just complicated by nature. Relationships are tough, but there's a pretty good pointers in that book about how you are able to live healthy relationships both in your personal and professional life. And that book really changed me and helped me develop much better relationships with my team basically, and with my friends and family while, going through a pandemic, going through, the startup life as a solo founder. It was hard to try to kind of maintain all the relationships in my life. And that book really gave me a really solid framework as to how to be able to like balance it out and how to have good, healthy relationships with all these different people that were part of my life during this journey. And I continue to use it today.
What's next for Círculo de Belleza over the next year or two?
So as a good founder, and I'm writing the startup and VC wave, never stop fundraising. So I'm looking forward to being able to find new partners and keep growing Círculo de Belleza to get it to where, the big vision of becoming not just the e-commerce side of the business, but growing into other verticals, growing into other geographies, growing into other products and categories. I think there's a lot to do in the sector, and there's very little disruption and very few players that are tapping into it. And it's kind of one of the most overlooked industries around the world in general. And we want to kind of be able to spread the business model all over Latin America, hire, really solid team. We're hiring a lot of different roles right now, kind of taking advantage of all of our new investors and trying to really gather all their thoughts and their ideas to be able to really crunch out the best version of Círculo de Belleza. So a lot of growth, a lot of expansion, and we're having awesome results month over month, and learning a lot, and always kind of measuring everything that we're accomplishing, so that way we know how to replicate it and how to improve it. So yeah, keeping very busy, and hopefully we'll be expanding into different product services and geographies in the next year or two.
Well, it's going to be great to continue to be able to support you along the journey. Thanks for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. It's really interesting. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Crossing Borders with our guest Maribel Dominguez. And thank you to Ángel Andraca for producing this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend and give us a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's the best way to share what's going on in Latin America's ecosystem.